Hi, everyone. So today we are going to do lesson 5.4, which is dividing decimals. We are going to fluently, which means without error, divide decimals using the standard algorithm. So really what we're going to be using here is dividing whole numbers algorithm, just what we did in 5.1, but we're going to talk about how we do that with decimals. This problem right here says at a pumpkin patch, you choose a pumpkin weighing 9.5 pounds and pay $4.75. What is the cost per pound of the pumpkin? So if we estimate this, $4.75 for 9.5 pounds, if we divide this like $5 divided by 10, it would be about 50 cents per pound. So what we're actually going to do is come back and do this problem at the end after we learn how to really divide decimals. So to divide decimals, we need to know some terminology. We talked about this terminology a little bit at the beginning when we did 5.1 dividing decimals, but we need to know that a dividend, or the total, remember, goes inside the house, and the divisor is the number of groups, or the number in each group goes outside the house. Remember, our answer is called a quotient, and that quotient will end up on top. So when we have a problem like this, our dividend is always listed first when it comes to this. So our dividend goes inside the house, 3.75, and our divisor goes outside, 2.5. So they kind of switch spots, or they flip-flop around. So to divide decimals by a whole number, it's really actually super easy, because if we're dividing by a whole number, which means our divisor is a whole number, we don't do anything different. The only thing that we actually do is take that decimal and put it on the ceiling. We raise our roof. We put it up top here. So, so a divisor by a whole number here, I want you to go ahead and pause and try these problems. So here, the only thing I'm going to do is take this decimal and bring it up. That's it, okay? Because our divisor is a whole number, now I just divide like normal. So 5 goes into 9 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. I subtract and get 4. I bring down my 7. 5 goes into 47 9 times. 9 times 5 is 45. I subtract and get 2. I bring down my 5, and 5 goes into 25 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25, and I'm done, okay? So super easy when our divisor is a whole number. Same here, okay? 7, I'm going to start by putting my decimal up top. 7 can't go into 6, but 7 can go into 64. 7 times 9 is 63. So 7 times 9 is 63. I subtract and get 1, bring down my 4. 7 goes into 14 twice, and I'm done because it cancels out. So when my divisor is a whole number, super easy. Now, if my divisor is a decimal, this is where it gets a little bit more complex, but it's not more difficult. It's just an extra step, really. So when we're dividing decimals, these are the steps that need to be written down in your notes. This is our step-by-step process, okay? The first thing we do is, if our divisor is not a whole number, we move the decimal point to the right to make it a whole number, and then we move the decimal point in the dividend the same number of places. So if I have something like 2.5 is my divisor and my whole number is, or my dividend is 13.7, what I'm going to do is I need to make the divisor a whole number. So 2.5, I make it a whole number by taking it to the end. So it was 2.5, now it's 25. I moved this one, so I have to move this one. And then all I'm going to do here is my next one is I'm going to move, move this decimal point where it's at now straight up. Done. That's all we have to do with the decimals. Now it's a normal problem. Now we would do 25 into 137 and get our answer. So as long as we make our divisor a whole number, do the same thing to our dividend, and then raise our decimal, we're dividing like normal. Okay, so Our step 2 is move our decimal point directly above the decimal point in the dividend, which we did. Then we divide as usual, and then we keep dividing until the answer terminates or repeats. So when we think of the word terminates, I like to think of it like dies, like the Terminator, or like, whatever, dies, it ends, okay? So if it ends a remainder of 0, okay, we have to keep going until we get a remainder of 0. That means it terminates. Or repeats would mean that we'd find a pattern. So we find that the answer keeps going 0.42, 42, 42. If we see that pattern, then we can stop because we see it's going to continue for forever, and we don't want to divide numbers for forever. So divide as usual, keep until the answer terminates or repeats. It's really not very complicated. So in your foldable now, we're going to fill out that dividing decimals chunk. So the first thing that we're going to do is move the decimal point in the divisor and the dividend until the divisor is a whole number. So first I have to say that 0.88 goes in the house and 1.6 goes outside, right? Dividend inside, divisor outside. I'm going to make this a whole number. Right now it's 1.6. I moved my decimal to the end to make it 16. I moved it once in the divisor, which means it needs to be moved once in the whole number. So it becomes 8.8. And then we place the decimal point in the quotient above the point in the dividend. So I just bring it straight up. This is where graph paper helps us to keep our handwriting really super organized. And then step 3, divide like you would whole numbers. So 16 can't go into 8, but 16 can go into 88. Let's see, I know 20 can go into 88 4 times, and that's probably going to be a little bit too much, so I'm going to start with a 3. 3 times 6 is 36. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 3 is 6, so I got 66. I subtract and get 22, so that's actually not right. I'm going to go up to that 4 again. I think that was closer the first time. So 4 times 6 is 24. 4 plus 2 is, what's happening? 64. How did I get 66 for 3? I didn't do something right. Anyway, 6 times 4 is 24. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. I subtract and get 24. What? Okay, you guys, I'm a nightmare right now. Let's try 5 and see if I'm not a nightmare right now. So 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 1 is 5, 6, 7, 8. And I subtract and get 8. Okay, so now here is where our problem has to keep going. We did not get an answer of 0 right here, which means our decimal has not terminated. So this is where we're going to reach up and we're going to go up into the attic and we're going to find a ghost 0. So if I look over here, there's a ghost 0. I'm going to grab him and I'm going to pull him all the way down until I have 80 here. Okay, so that's called annexing a 0. We reach up into the attic or the annex and we grab a ghost 0 and we bring it down. So now what I'm looking for is how many times can 16 go into 80? I see that I already did this here, so it would be 5. 5 times 16 I already know is 80. I subtract and I get a 0, which means it now terminates. So my answer here, always rewrite, is 0.55. That is my answer. So I'm going to do one more example here and then I will get up and reteach this. I want to do this one though, I think, with a decimal. So remember, our dividend goes inside the house. Our divisor goes outside. Our first step here is to make our divisor a whole number. So 2.5 becomes 25. I moved my decimal once here, so I move my decimal once here, and I just bring it straight up. So now I'm actually dividing. 25 can't go into 1. It can't go into 18, but it can go into 183. Now I like to think of change. 25 times 4 is $1. Times plus 2 more would be $1.50. So 4, 5, 6 would be $1.50. 7 would be $1.75. So I know it's 175. I subtract. 13 minus 5 is 8. Now, it hasn't terminated, so I have to reach up into my attic and grab a ghost zero and drop it down. Now, I know 3/4 is 75 cents. So 3 times 25 is 75. I subtract and I get 5. Still hasn't terminated. So then my next step needs to be to annex. Reach up, grab another ghost, and pull them all the way down next to my 5 here. Okay, now I know 25 times 2 is 50. So I get a 0. My answer, I repeat, is 0.732, and I circle my answer. Okay, so I will get up and we will do some practice problems together, some regular practice problems, some story problems. But your homework is in your book. This is actually correct. So page 128, 12 through 20 even. So 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23, and 32. Okay, I will get up now and we will do a little bit of practice. There we go.